some part of that is just being on time.
And, it's a message to the rest of the team. This is the time of year where you send messages. You're trying to get these guys ready to win at the end of the season when the Horizon League tournament rolls around.
Ready to jump it up, and it is a Tijere who wins it. And Northern Kentucky wearing the home whites today. On defense for the first time, Kentucky State in the road blacks with the gold letters and numbers, green trim, and it's Josh Dilling right out of the gate, sinking a three-pointer out of the corner.
Well, we talked about how Northern Kentucky's got to defend the three-point shot, but Kentucky State's got to get out on Northern Kentucky shooters as well, otherwise it could be a long afternoon.
Quick 3-0 start for Northern Kentucky. This is Keon Henderson, who did not start the last time out, back in the starting lineup, and there's a turnover forced by Hubie Prevorius.
Prevorius getting it done on the defensive end. That's great to see.
Here is Vincent. That's part of the reason he's getting his third straight start. Here is Vincent with a turnaround. No good. It's tipped up by Wells, who tries to chase it down, but it lands out of bounds nonetheless. So a quick 3-0 lead for Northern Kentucky here in the first minute of the game. Here is Henderson with it. Henderson, 5'11", out of Detroit, Michigan. Number 5, he's the one with the ball right now, LeVar Miller. He's the guy that the scouting report is catered to stop. There's a crossover by Henderson. He tries to get it inside, and it's thrown away, and here's Dilling out of the pack with it.
Dilling getting the early assignment defensively against LeVar Miller. Imagine Northern Kentucky going to use a couple different guys to try to slow him down today.
Then a quick whistle, and that is an offensive foul, a moving screen action, and it's against L.J. Wells. Let's take a look at our keys to the game.
Well, as we take a look at the keys to the game for Northern Kentucky, pound the paint. They're going to have a big advantage inside physically. We'll see if they can work it inside. We know Kentucky State, they're playing let them fly. Lots of threes. They hit 25 of them the other night. And I think the first 10 minutes are key. When you're the underdog going on the road, you've got to try to keep it close to try to keep that belief that you can pull the upset.
And Kentucky State will fire it up from any place on the floor. Here's a floater in the baseline. That's no good by Aziel Blackwell. And here comes Northern Kentucky.
I think if those are the kind of shots Kentucky State's going to get, I think Northern Kentucky can live with that.
Knocked away from a Tijere, and he throws it away. In Northern Kentucky, turnovers have been a bugaboo through the first 4 games. But there, they create one on their own. And here's a run out for Wells. And he finds the trailer Vincent, who lays it in.
That was a great pass by Prevorius, a great catch by Wells, and did well not to force a shot up, had Vincent wide open.
Here's the floater on the other end by Henderson as Kentucky State just simply beat Northern Kentucky down the floor.
Well, that's not going to make Darren Horn happy. Got to be able to get back and get set up on defense. Good job pushing the pace for Kentucky State.
Here's Dilling, loses control, and now bodies fly. A couple of Kentucky State guys fell into each other, but it's a foul against the Thoroughbreds nonetheless, and it is against LeVar Miller.
One other thing that's going to be key today for Kentucky State is they've got to stay out of foul trouble. This is not a very deep team. They've got to keep these guys on the floor as much as possible. Early foul trouble could really be a problem for them.
Here's Dilling with it. He'll get it to Vincent. Vincent spins to the logo, puts it in. You gotta like Sam Vincent starting to become more assertive on the offensive end of the floor.
Yeah, I think that game the other night against Cincinnati really was what he needed to kind of build that confidence back up. It takes a little time when you come back from injury, but he really has a look right now. He's going to be aggressive on the offensive end.
And the conversation that Darren Horn had with him ahead of that game was a big part of it as well. Miller with a touch pass out of the corner. It's Blackwell, no good. Blackwell, a lefty out of Lexington, Kentucky. Interesting because he was a high school teammate of Marquez Warwick.
Well, that's a pretty good backcourt if you got those two guys firing up shots from all over the gym.
Saw Quez play a little bit last night for Missouri. And how about Hubie Prevorius playing the string music out of the corner. And Northern Kentucky's off to a 10-2 start. And it's Miller with a contested 30-footer. And that is par the scouting report.
I mean, they told the guys yesterday at practice they will literally shoot it from everywhere. You've got to defend them everywhere, especially Miller. That was really contested, and he nearly made it anyway.
No good by Ayo. Ojian Ayo, he's the main threat down in the post for this team, and he commits a touch foul as L.J. Wells is posting up. So Io, a senior out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a transfer from LSU Alexandria. As you see, Dr. Jamal Jackson, yes, he does have a doctorate, cannot perform surgery, but he probably doesn't want to. He's in his ninth season at Kentucky State, and he's their all-time wins leader in their NCAA era, which dates all the way back to '82.
He's a graduate of Kentucky State as well, and now doing great things as the coach.
Wells has it fall. It will count, and he will go to the free throw line for an and one opportunity when we come back from our first media break. Northern Kentucky gets out to a fast start, much like they needed here. They lead it by 10 on ESPN+. Northern Kentucky Norse basketball on ESPN+ is brought to you by Central Bank, as well as Jolly Plumbing, where a flush beats a full house. Welcome back, fans. Brady Labor along with Matt Sexton. And Mac, it's really good to see Sam Vincent kind of get off the offensive schneid last time out against Cincinnati.
Well, you mentioned the conversation that Darren Horn had with him before the Cincinnati game. Really kind of reminded him of that game a couple years ago when the Norse won and how he played and battled to be able to play in that game. Sam Vincent obviously is a big key to what Northern Kentucky is going to do on the offensive end of the floor. And when he plays with this kind of aggression and looking to get his shots, not only is he going to be more effective, but he's going to open up more space for everybody else out on the floor.
Already has 2 buckets here in the early going today as L.J. Wells will complete the old-fashioned three-point play transaction. He's now 7 of 9 from the free throw line here in the young season, and that gives Northern Kentucky an opportunity to show a full-court press. No changes coming out of the break for Northern Kentucky. One change for Kentucky State is number 11, Tyson Brooks, a senior out of Odenton, Maryland, into the game for the first time. And there's a traveling violation called against Blackwell, and that'll turn it over to Northern Kentucky. And for Kentucky State, that's already 4 turnovers forced here in the first 4+ minutes of action.
It's always interesting when you see teams, especially the ones that like to play high tempo, get a look at this Northern Kentucky defense for the first time. It's not something you can simulate in practice because you're not going to run it as well as they do. Right now they're having a hard time figuring out where the open spots on the floor are.
Here's Dilling for 3. It's short, and the long rebound will go to Henderson. Here's Miller. Kicks it out to Ayo. No good. Rebounded by Vincent. And here comes Northern Kentucky, but a great interception there as Miller read the eyes of the quarterback and throws up a wild shot. That was nowhere close. But that's shooting a 3, turning down what could be a play at the basket. That's clearly what the Thoroughbreds want to do. Here's Vincent for 3, and he hits nothing but the nylon.
Well, this has got bad news written all over for Kentucky State. They have got to figure something out defensively. Right now, Northern Kentucky operating on all cylinders on both ends of the floor, and they've got a 14-point lead.
Here's Henderson working on Vincent. Here comes the help defender, Favorius, who blows up the play. But Blackwell and the interior pass to Brooks is intercepted. Here is Vincent. Hubie with the corner shot. No, he'll ball fake and dribble out of it. Now it's Vincent. 2 in a row. Sam Vincent has come out of the gates red hot with 10 of Northern Kentucky's first 19 points.
And Brady, this week should be a red alert across the entire Horizon League that Sam Vincent is looking like Sam Vincent post-injury now. And that should be scary to every team in the Horizon League.
Just 11 months away from the initial injury. Back on December 21st, and there he comes away with another steal. Vincent with it now. He'll slow up and wait for help. And Northern Kentucky will run it out of the half court. Into Wells. He'll take it right at his man, Brooks, and put it high off the banking board.
Just seeing a lot of things we saw in practice yesterday being executed on both ends of the floor, getting that ball in deep and going straight up with it. Not afraid to shoot the long ones.
That's from the logo. No good. An offensive rebound by Miller. And he is fouled, forced out of bounds due to a shove by his opposite number, L.J. Wells. And Northern Kentucky will make its first 2 substitutions of the game. It'll be Randall Pettis along with Paulus Repolis, a 7-footer, and a sophomore guard check in for the first time. Also checking in for Kentucky State, number 14, Gregory Melvin. And That was almost intercepted by Pettis. Blackwell down low, and the reversal is good by Melvin.
He did well to get it up on the glass quickly because Rapolis was coming for it, just didn't get there in time.
Wells with a turnaround, little baby jumper there from the block, and everything is going in for Northern Kentucky right now.
9 of 11 from the floor so far for Northern Kentucky.
Here's Miller driving. No good as far as the pass goes. It'll go out of bounds, and it looks like it'll stay down there with Kentucky State.
You know, we saw yesterday when we were watching practice how Northern Kentucky rotates on defense and eventually ends up in the passing lane. They've done it so efficiently today, it almost looks like they're doing it like they did in practice.
That's a foul against Northern Kentucky. It'll be Josh Dilling, and we'll get our first look at Dan Goresger, another Division II transfer as far as a point guard goes out of Michigan Tech. Goresger got the first 3 starts of the year, didn't go so well. But now coming off the bench, playing off the ball, a little different role for him, and it's calming him down a little bit. As Miller hits a long 2-pointer.
Well, that was interesting because Pettis, I think, thought he was close enough, and Miller was like, no, I can still get up and get this shot away. Again, that's what everybody's got to be aware of, is you've got to guard him at all times.
Oh, and Pettis with a blow-by all the way to the rack. He went right by Cordell Livingston, who's got the ball right now. Livingston's a name that folks in the state of Kentucky should be familiar with. His twin brother, Chris Livingston, played for the Kentucky Wildcats a couple years ago, now in the NBA with the Milwaukee Bucks. As Ojian Ayu misses that shot, and here comes the Norse. Here's the lob, down to Rapolis, and the big fella lays it up and in.
I think right now Darren Horn, every play he calls is just being executed to perfection, and right now Kentucky State has no answer on defense. This is their only answer, is knock down some threes.
That's Miller, shooting 44% from the three-point line, and Darren Horton reminded us, he says it doesn't matter what division you're in, 44% is an elite level of making shots from the three-point line. As a foul will take us to our under 12 media break, and it's Northern Kentucky jumping out to a huge lead. Welcome back to ESPN Plus. Brady Labor along with Matt Sexton, and the Kentucky State Thoroughbreds have a rich history. Much of it was many, many years ago in the NAIA level, but they went through a run where they won 3 consecutive national championships, and one of the legends of our game, John McClendon, was their head coach. We celebrate him in the Horizon League every year.
Yeah, of course, Coach John McClendon Day. He became the first African-American basketball coach at a predominantly white university at Cleveland State. And we celebrate what he's done for the game. Of course, obviously more history than that. Travis Machine Gun Grant was a member, obviously led Kentucky State to those national championships. Elmore Smith, a teammate on those national championship teams. You know, they've got a rich history, obviously HBCU, so even beyond the game of basketball, very important to the cause of education, and certainly you know, still having a really good basketball program, off to a 3-0 start this year. I think they're going to win a lot of games at the Division II level this year.
And the head coach of those teams in that three-peat from 1970 through 72, Lucius Mitchell, a Hall of Famer in college basketball as well. If you ever have the chance to find the ESPN production, it's called Black Magic. It basically talks about the history of the HBCUs in college basketball. Heavily featured John McClendon in it, as well as others. Ben Jobe is in it. But they go through that whole run there that Kentucky State had. And Machine Gun Grant was no joke. He left college basketball as the all-divisions, all-time leading scorer, over 4,000 points, 300 more than Pistol Pete Maravich. Here is Pettis. Of course, he and Elmore Smith both played in the NBA as well. Here's the kick out to Goresger out of the corner, and that rattled out and back in.
That's when you know it's your day. The balls that are rattling around the rim still drop in. Northern Kentucky, 12 for their first 16 from the floor.
And that is intercepted by Dilling. Here comes Goresger. The skip out to Pettis, who ball fakes, drives in. And it's Goretzka again. That one's too strong. Wells gets the rebound, has to fight through a crowd of people, and he will draw the foul.
He was quadruple team there, Brady. You don't see that too often. 1-on-4 and was still able to draw the contact and go to the free throw line.
And that's something that Darren Horn has wanted more out of L.J. Wells, is just sheer toughness.
Well, they're going to have to be tough inside, not just Wells, but their entire front court. They've got to be able to out-rebound teams as they've done most of the season and be strong in the post.
Tonight's production is crewed entirely by Northern Kentucky University students. They gain valuable hands-on experience that will benefit them as they enter the job market. For more information on the electronic media broadcasting major and the many other degree programs offered by Northern Kentucky University, log on to the website nku.edu. Northern Kentucky University, real ambition, real success, whether it's day or night.
No question about it. Both proud alums sitting here at this table.
That's right. As well as Bill Farrow and Wes Akers, who I think is only here in spirit at this point.
He really is our spiritual leader today.
Here's a three out of the corner by Ayu, and he makes the basket. And all of a sudden, Kentucky State finally halfway through the half has broken double digits.
Now, they're going to have to keep shooting it. They don't really have a plan B, so got to hope some of them start dropping in.
Here's Vincent as a Tijere passes out of the double team, no good, and Ayu with the rebound. And here come the Thoroughbreds. Of course they would be running. Long three-pointer by Blackwell, no good. And a rebound by Vincent. Here's Goretzka in rhythm. No good. And Ayo takes it away from his teammate Livingston. And now Livingston will bring it up.
One thing this team likes to do, we've already seen them do it on the offensive end. They shoot early in the clock, but they also try to speed you up on the defensive end so they can get the ball back and shoot it again.
Oh, that's a foul there. Goretzka got a little hand action onto Ayo, and he will go to the free throw line in the act of shooting. For Goretzka, it's his first and the team's fourth. Is Odion Ayo shooting 5 for 8 on the season from the free throw line, misses the first.
He averaged about 6 points a game in his last season at LSU Alexandria back in 2022-23, bumped it to over 11 last year and over 13 so far this year, so continuing to progress as a player.
Yeah, 5 double-doubles last season for the Thoroughbreds as they finished the year 12-14 overall, 9-11 in the SEAC. Is that what you'd call it? I mean, I know all those are abbreviated into acronyms that don't make sense, but that's what you do, right? When you talk about conferences, not to be mistaken by the Division II GLIAC.
True.
Or the G-Walk in high school, right?
That's right.
You always got to make something up, right?
Everybody's got an abbreviation.
That's right. Here's a long three-pointer by Blackwell, no good. Chasing it down, and still it was loose there. Kentucky State had it momentarily, and here's Goretzka on the break, and he'll lay it up and in.
Kentucky State really missed the opportunity to just grab that ball and settle everything down. They were trying to tip it around. Northern Kentucky took advantage of it.
Interesting about this Kentucky State roster, not very many players from the state of Kentucky. Of course, they're based in the state capital of Frankfurt. Here's a long three-pointer, and somebody swung the front door open on Nicholas Cross there out of Orlando, Florida. And here come the Norse. Down low to a Tijere, the big fella down low, no good, and it's rebounded by Melvin.
That's a shot that Darren Horn wants to see get up on the basket. You don't want to leave those short. It's really hard to get rebounds if the shot ends up short.
Here's Livingston. Livingston, the older of the two twins, but his brother Chris was blessed with more height at 6'7". Cordell only 6 feet tall, but still a hooper nonetheless. Here's Blackwell, knocked away by Pettis. And coming out with Ayo, but he's dribbled on the sideline, and that takes us to our most recent media break. Northern Kentucky with a big lead over the Thoroughbreds as Goretzka finishes right in your living room here on ESPN+. Welcome back, fans. Brady Labor along with Matt Sexton on this Saturday afternoon. And Friday evening, it was announced the newest Northern Kentucky University Hall of Fame class. Two men's basketball players, of course, Brendan Stowers, who's a current assistant on the women's side, as you see Ken Shields, who coached him, and Drew McDonald, of course, a guy in the more recent past. Both those guys very well deserving.
Well, the soon-to-be Hall of Famer usually occupies this spot that I'm sitting in as Pettis doesn't get that one to go. But, you know, fortunate enough to watch Drew McDonald. I still consider him to be the best of all time. Obviously holds a ton of records here. You know, just a phenomenal player. And Brendan Stowers, not only a phenomenal player in his time, but now has come back to be one of the squad on the getting a chance to chat with him regularly. He's just loves university. He's excited to be back, and it's great to see both of them get honored.
And, of course, both of them are now second-generation Hall of Famers, Jeff Stowers and Christy Freppen McDonald, of course, blaze the path for their sons as well, as Melvin goes to the free throw line, and he will miss the first one. The Horizon League and our members live and play in the largest and most vibrant cities in the country, allowing our student-athletes exposure to unique experiences only available in major cities. Learn more about all of our major cities. Visit horizonleague.com/brand recharge. Check out the favorite spots to visit, eat, and socialize of our athletes and administrators in our major cities by visiting horizonleague.com/LITL. Matt Sexton, you need to have some input on that.
You know, I've said that the many times I've read that reader over the year, is that they should have a broadcaster's page as well. Talk about some of our favorite places to visit and eat, especially you, because you really get around the Great Lakes during the summertime. There's a lot of great restaurant recommendations you've given me over the years.
Yeah, unfortunately, they were in smaller cities for the most part.
Not the major cities.
But I can tell you, you got to hit up Portillo's in Fort Wayne, that's for sure. And I think there might be one in Detroit, which is the Oakland area, Oakland, Detroit, Mercy area. I could be mistaken on that one. But yeah, I'd have to get my, you know, my concierge hat on and look that up and tell you definitely about some places around this area, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky.
For sure.
As Pettis makes the free throws and L.J. Wells checks back in. Trey Robinson in the game for the first time. He checked in during that last media break when we were talking about other things. But I guess his sentence has been served, and he is out there and playing for the first time today.
And again, like you said, I don't think it's anything serious, but the big thing Darren Horn's trying to get his guys to understand, really across the entire roster, is you want to do things a certain way so you can be ready to be successful at the end of the year.
And he's kind of leaned on Trey to be a leader the last couple years. It's been tough for him to – he's not resistant to buy in. It's always been what Darren describes as, you know, a lack of maturity. And this is the time. You're running out of time. This is your 5th year, and you got to cut those habits out right now. And this is hopefully a good deterrent to get him to start buying into that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what you hope for. And again, you want your younger players, the guys you're bringing into the program, to kind of see what the expectations are going to be for them as they continue to mature. Because again, you're trying to build a culture of winning year after year. It's the right way to do that, and that's the goal all the way down the roster.
Keon Henderson committed that foul for Kentucky State, his first, but more importantly, the team's 7th, which means Northern Kentucky is in the bonus for the rest of the half with exactly 6 minutes left to go before the intermission, as Sam Vincent knocks down the 2 free throws. He now has 12 points. Speaking of number 12, Josh Dilling returns, and now Kentucky State is going to call a 30-second timeout here, as Dr. Jamal Jackson, the head coach of the Thoroughbreds, are going to talk this one over. But it's been a long time since these two have played each other, as we take a look at that last hoop there. Here, Vincent, the reach-in foul, but these two teams played each other a lot in the earlier incarnations of when still being NAIA for Kentucky State, Northern Kentucky being Division II, but it's been since 2002 that these two teams met.
Yeah, I mean, overall, the series is 24-19 in favor of Northern Kentucky. Now, this game will go on Northern Kentucky's ledger, will not go on Kentucky State's because this is an exhibition. It's weird how the NCAA rules that. 90-65 was that win back in 2002. What's more interesting, I think, is some of the names that were involved in that game.
Well, the leading scorer was Brendan Stowers.
How about that?
Coincidentally enough, for Northern Kentucky, he was a senior that year. And the two head coaches, we've already seen Ken Shields, but for Kentucky State, it was Winston Bennett, a guy whose name is synonymous with Kentucky basketball. Played on a Final Four team for the Wildcats in 1984, and he'd just come off of a successful assistant coaching spot, not only at Kentucky with Rick Pitino, but also with the Boston Celtics.
That was the second game of the John L. Griffin Lions Club Classic over at Regents Hall back last time they played.
Yep, and of course John L. Griffin's name on the floor here. Of course, one of his descendants, Bobby Griffin, on that first team for Northern Kentucky all the way back in 1971, 72. Here's Miller with it. A wild shot, no good. It's rebounded by Miller, and he hits the deck, and he will draw a foul.
I like the way he plays. He's aggressive. He's not afraid to get in there and mix it up. Obviously, we've seen his range, able to shoot from long distance, but not afraid to take it inside.
Darren Horn says this about players sometimes that don't always do the right things, but, you know, he ain't scared. Says, yeah, you'll have to live through those mistakes because some guys, they'll make mistakes because of being timid and trying not to make a mistake. Other guys make mistakes because, again, they're not scared and they're just throwing caution to the wind sometimes. And I think you'd like to have that more as a coach than the vice versa, to reel a guy in as opposed to begging.
100% as a coach, I always tell my players I always will live with the mistakes of aggression as opposed to mistakes being afraid to make a mistake.
So Miller makes the free throws, and he's now at 9 points on the game as it's a 38-17 lead for Northern Kentucky. Here's Rapolis, top of the key. He'll hand it off to Dilling, and, yeah, you can't screen that way, my man. You can set one, but you can't just push him off, and that's what the young fellow from Lithuania just did. So that's an offensive foul. That's his second. 8 against the Norse, but that's what they call a player control foul, so no free throws.
I do give Henderson some credit. He knew that he was going to need to maybe sell it a little bit because, I mean, it was definitely a push. It was the right call, but he also threw the head back, make sure the official sees that push.
And now Miller's starting to heat up, and Darren Horn recognizes it. Now he will call timeout to remind his players of the scouting report to make sure that that guy cannot be left open no matter where he is once he crosses half court.
That's the third stop for LeVar Miller. It started at Central State, then moved on to Southern Nazarene, and now here at Kentucky State. And like you said, starting to get heated up now. He's up to 12 points.
Horizon League student athletes have major experiences in our league, including NCAA Division I competition and championships and exposure on ESPN platforms. Learn more about the major experiences provided by the HL and our members. Visit horizonleague.com/brand recharge. Of course, Northern Kentucky had one of those moments this past Tuesday night as the Cincinnati Bearcats came to town, nationally ranked, from a high major conference, and just, less than 10 miles away from each campus.
Yeah, and the Norse hung in there for most of the game. Cincinnati ended up pulling away late with some great shooting, and that's a really good team that Wes Miller has at Cincinnati. I think they're going to do some damage in the Big 12 and in the postseason
and
this year.
And they don't have use of their best player for the next few weeks in Dan Skilling, so could have been a lot more scary than it ended up being as Northern Kentucky misses the shot. That was Shuby Prevorius back in the game. And now here comes Miller. Quick trigger. I'm surprised they didn't have the green uniforms on today because his green light is bright. It's neon.
There is no yellow light or red light on his light. It is 3 green lights all the way down. He's going to keep shooting. Dilling didn't do a good job staying with him that time, and he just fired it in.
And he has scored the last 8 points for Kentucky State. He's got 15 for the half, and he has it right now, and he's going to pull up from the logo. No good. That, I would say, normally is a heat check, but I think every shot's a heat check for this guy.
You know, it reminds me a lot of some of the shots we saw Marquez Warwick make over the years where he can really step into one from long range when he really gets going, except Miller just does that all the time, and you have to respect the fact the moment he walks across that logo or near the logo, it may be going up. You've got to get in his face.
Yeah, if he crosses the timeline, he thinks he's open. And his coach is giving him that freedom, but there on the defensive end, he commits a foul. And that's going to be 3 on him, which is pretty dangerous. That's a problem to have him out there. But, You know, he's red hot from the offensive end, and now he's going to have to sit out the last 4:09. And where now will Kentucky State get its offense? Because it's been a heavy dosage of LeVar Miller. He's got 15 of their 23 points.
Well, that's a great question. AO certainly can fill it up a little bit, averaging almost 14 points a game. Blackwell's averaging 16 points a game. But, yeah, it's going to fall on some other guys, and they're going to have to play a little better defense as well.
Missed free throw. Northern Kentucky gets it back, and it's Sam Vincent burying it in the bottom of the sack. And even when Northern Kentucky misses a shot, they find a way to get more.
We talked about having to find LeVar Miller on this end of the floor. Kentucky State's got to know where Sam Vincent is, because right now he's looking to shoot every time he's got a little space.
15 points for him as well. And the entry pass is stolen by Vincent. Here's Robinson on the run. He's blocked from behind. Pavorius sticks it up. No good, but a foul is going to be called. That likely, it's actually on the, I thought 14, it's actually 41, Morgan Brewer. And that'll take us to our final first half media break. But the Norse right now, offensively at least, clicking on all cylinders here on ESPN+. From Lithuania, coincidentally enough, he's from the same hometown as Hubie Pavorius, but he's a guy that was thought to be more of a project, but has been able to get on the floor early on and bang around and get some rebounds, especially against the high major opponents this year.
Both from the national capital of Vilnius, and yeah, we saw it yesterday in practice, you know, kind of the work they're doing with him. They really want to make sure he's catching the ball deeper in the block and going straight up with it. But, yeah, I think a lot of people thought he was going to be someone that maybe you get a little bit from this year, but maybe you're looking more next year. But he's been able to give him some big minutes this year and has really been a physical presence inside.
Hubie Pavorius misses the first free throw. Of course, he provides depth at that number 5 position behind Kiana Tijere. And another guy they're hoping to get some more minutes out of is on the floor right now for the first time, and that's Caesar Chilumbo, a redshirt sophomore out of the Congo. Played his high school basketball in the state of Maryland. But again, that's another guy, more of a longer-term project. But with Rapolis, he's been able to get on the floor much sooner, as Caesar had to redshirt for a year and got pretty much sparing minutes last year in his first year on the varsity level, so to speak. And there's a steal, just ripped it away from him. A strong arm steal, and the alley-oop stufferino for Sam Vincent.
You can see Sam Vincent calling for it as soon as they cut across half court. He was pointing at the rim, hey, throw it up, and Vincent went up and threw it down.
Now that's showing more confidence with that surgically repaired knee, as that shot is missed. The floater, but a rebound basket is good for Gregory Melvin off the Justin Edmondson miss.
Nice job by Melvin getting the second chance opportunity and going up strong, getting a bucket.
Vincent with 17 points, a new season high. He had 16 against UC. And how about Randall Pettis? He plays a little string music from the outside. And Northern Kentucky is just clicking on all cylinders, shooting well above 50% from the floor.
Pettis is only shooting 20% from three-point range so far this year, but that didn't look like the shot of someone shooting 20%.
And he's not alone in that 20% or lower percentile for Northern Kentucky, which is just kind of flummoxed Darren Horn so far, but a good game to get well on. But here it is right here. He just rips it out of the hands and then recognizes the teammate out ahead of him, and then it's Sam Vincent, look out below.
Well, obviously they're taking advantage of a Kentucky State team that really hasn't troubled them too much defensively, but it also tells you how good some of the teams they played are so far this season defensively. They've played some really tough defensive teams.
Here's Vincent with it. Stopped by Livingston. Now Rapolis looks for help. Get it back from Vincent. Down low, Robinson has to kick it back out. It's Pettis one more time. Short. The stick back attempt no good. Rapolis gets another opportunity and again can't convert. That's where the big fella just needed to dunk the ball.
Exactly. I think I even said that. They said that in practice yesterday. Just go up there and throw it down.
And now a whistle on the opposite end of the floor than we are. And it is a foul against Northern Kentucky, Sam Vincent. And that's his first. And that will put Kentucky State at the line in the name of Justin Edmondson for one in the bonus. as Josh Dilling will check in for Northern Kentucky. Edmondson just 1 of 1 from the free throw line so far in this young season. A senior out of Snellville, Georgia. Second year in the program after spending time at South Georgia Community College. He makes the first, earning the second.
A call on Vincent. I think it's one of those calls where he probably gets away with that if it didn't immediately result in a turnover, but Northern Kentucky was going to get that ball, so the official had no choice but to call the foul.
So Edmondson makes them both, and now he's a perfect 3 for 3 on the season, and he cuts the Northern Kentucky lead to 20. Pettis driving on Edmondson. He'll kick it out to Dilling, and from the top of the key, knocks it down.
Dilling, when he gets set like that, he is a really good shooter. Sometimes he kind of falls away a little bit, but that time was in that ready-to-shoot position and just buried it.
Northern Kentucky came into this game shooting just 25% from long range as Edmondson answers on the other end, but Northern Kentucky pushing the pace here. Now to be Pettis. He'll work on the screen from Rapolis, a little short. The big fella's got to chase it down, but he can't get to it before it goes out of bounds. And to Kentucky State with 1:07 left in the half.
Kentucky State typically doesn't mind when the other team offensively goes fast. The problem is when the other team shoots 50% from the floor and is 8 of 17 from three-point range. Norse are plus 9 points behind the arc against a team that loves to shoot three-pointers.
Blocked by Rapolis, and it ends up in the hands of Dilling, who gets it out quickly to Robinson, and it's knocked away, and it'll stay with Northern Kentucky. As reaching in was Gregory Melvin to knock it out of the hands of Robinson, the graduate student from Hamilton High School in his 5th year with the Norse. Pettis tips it to himself. Little big man move. Can't make it fall, but chases it down. Northern Kentucky can reset. Rapolis. Here comes the double team. He's got a mismatch. He recognized the mouse on the house. Can't convert, but he will draw the foul nonetheless from the backside help.
You know, that's one of those situations they've been working on Rapolis on, is he caught that ball outside of the paint. They would like to see him catch that about a step to 2 steps into the paint. There's no reason for him to come that far out. Stay in the paint, throw it into him there, and then go up and make a strong move and get the finish. Still got the free throws, but I think if he's a little deeper on the initial catch, he probably gets the bucket.
Rapolis, a lefty. A lot of left-handers on this team this year. All 3 of the major newcomers, Goretzka, Dilling, and Rapolis, all lefties. And now it looks like Kentucky State will be satisfied with going for the last shot, which is very rare for them, as there's just tenths of a second difference between the timer and the game clock. Blackwell finds Melvin inside, no good. It's tapped up, no good. And it'll go into the Northern Kentucky bench with 4.2 left. So the Norse will have a chance for the final offensive set. Robinson triggers it. He gets it to Dilling. He'll find Robinson. He's got time. Short. And that is how the first half will end. But Northern Kentucky puts half 100 on the scoreboard in the first 20 minutes and take a 20-point lead. Half set. What kind of jumped out to you as far as the first half box score?
NKU forced 12 turnovers and scored 13 points off those turnovers. They had an 18-8 edge in the paint, which we expected, but they also had a plus 9 points from beyond the three-point arc. That's an area that Kentucky State needed to win that battle to have a shot to stay in this game.
And LeVar Miller is on the floor with those 3 fouls to start the second half, but he did not touch the ball on that set as Morgan Brewer could not convert down low, as Kentucky State had the ball first and could not take advantage of it. Here is Dilling, the kick out to Pavorius for 3. Short, and it's rebounded by Henderson.
Norse got the shot they were looking for. Pavorius, usually when he's that open, he's going to bury it. Just left out a little short.
Here's Miller with it. He and Henderson looked like they wanted to play catch until Vincent anticipated the pass. Now it's Ayo for three. The big fella steps out and shows some range.
I was getting ready to mention they switched. Northern Kentucky has switched and put Sam Vincent now on Miller. But that left Ayo with a better matchup, and he was able to knock down the triple.
Here's Vincent with it on the offensive end. Still with it. Kicks it out. Now Wells will get it into the post to a Tigeray, working on Brewer. A lot of contact. It's blocked from behind, and here comes Blackwell with it. Blackwell with a shot, a wild one. He wanted an and one as well, but Aziel Blackwell, originally from Newark, New Jersey, playing his high school ball just 25 miles away from the campus of Kentucky State in Lexington, and he's going to rise and fire, and that one misses badly.
Well, Kentucky State stepped up their defense. Ayo got a block that led to a bucket, and then immediately Blackwell gets a steal, and then a heat check, if you will, throwing one up from long range, and he kind of cringed when he shot it, but that's exactly the start that Kentucky State needed in the second half.
They start the half on a 5-0 run, do the Thoroughbreds. Here's Dilling. No good, and the loose ball ends up in the hands of Wells, who finds Hubie in tall timber, and he connects and will go to the free throw line.
That's not necessarily something Pavorius is known for, but we've seen him working on that cut to the basket, not afraid to get inside, use the shot fake, get these guys off the floor, and then try to draw some contact. Nice pass inside. Pavorius, not afraid of the contact, going up, trying to make it a three-point play.
Last year, Hubie sat out the whole season after rotator cuff surgery. He started the year practicing, got injured, and was able to come back and be cleared by February. There were thoughts of going ahead and playing him, but they decided to go ahead and allow him to redshirt, saving an extra year, and there he gets a rebound there. Of course, listed as a senior on the roster. Here is Wells. No good, and Blackwell gets the rebound.
Brady, how often have we seen it over the years? You get a player that maybe wasn't penciled to be a starter at the beginning of the year, but for whatever reason it kind of works out that way, and then he makes the most of his opportunity. He's playing well on the offensive end. He's getting hands-on passes on the defensive end. Sometimes you can just change the coaching staff's mind and earn a little more playing time.
Well, it all started for him. This is his third straight start. Coach Horn decided, let's start him because his family is here from Lithuania. They had never seen him play in person. I think it would be neat to just allow him to be announced in front of the crowd with the hype video and all that stuff. Then he starts a second game because Coach Horn is feeling like I got to change the role for Dan Goretzka. Now he stays in after Trey Robinson decided to be late one day this week to practice. And he's played well enough to keep continuing to start. He's definitely in the rotation from here on out, barring any kind of injury. But you're right. It is just taking advantage of an opportunity, and sometimes it's another man's misfortune that creates your opportunity, but you can't be worried about that because you got to be able to be ready when your name is called.
And the thing about Darren Horn is if you go out there and show and prove that you belong out there, you're going to be out there. Whatever his thoughts might have been, like, you can change his mind by going out and playing well, and that's exactly what he's done so far.
So Kentucky State with it now. A bullet pass into Brewer, and that's a mismatch. He's just an undersized big right now, going up against a 7-footer. In the SIAC, that might be a more favorable matchup as Robinson is blocked at the rim, and now the ball's on the ground, and it's a jump ball. It stays with Northern Kentucky.
You know, the shame for Brewer is he didn't do anything wrong. He made a nice shot fake, and against an equally sized defender, that would have worked because he would have come off the ground. The problem is Rapolis doesn't have to come off the ground. He just stood there with his hands up, and the shot fake really had no effect.
Vincent will trigger it. He gets it into Robinson. Robinson looked to get it back to Vincent and couldn't. But now he does. Here is Dilling. Has it knocked away? Brewer on the ground, and it's picked up by Miller. Here come the Thoroughbreds, but losing control of it. And here's Rapolis in transition. The big fella has to settle for the finger roll off of the heel of his hand.
I thought we were getting a Stufferino for sure. He had a full head of steam, but
well, he owes us one after that one where he should have dunked it.
But, you know, we saw something on that turnover from Miller that we've seen Northern Kentucky talking about with their guards in practice, that dribble behind the back.
Yes.
It was not necessary, and as soon as he put it behind the back, it got poked away and taken away. Something Darren Horn and his staff have worked with their guards on. Don't go between the legs. Don't go behind the back. Keep it in front of you to create that space, and it's faster that way.
And we saw it yesterday in practice where it was especially Goresger who is, that's just a bad habit he needs to be broken of as far as the culture of this particular group. As Wells in transition lays it up and in.
Now a 7-0 run for Northern Kentucky after Kentucky State got the first 5.
Blackwell misses, and it's Brewer with the stick back.
That time he was able to get Rapolas too far under the basket to be able to come out and block that shot.
Robinson has it knocked away from behind by Miller. Brewer picks it up, and here come the Thoroughbreds. The spin move for Blackwell, no good. It's tipped up and into the hands of Wells. And now a loose ball foul. It looks like it's going to be called against Morgan Brewer, and that'll take us to our media break. Well, an exciting first 4+ minutes of the second half, but each team scores 7 points, and Northern Kentucky's lead remains at 20 here on ESPN+. Welcome back, fans. Brady Labor along with Matt Sexton. You take a look at Sam Vincent, who is getting ever so closer to the 1,000-point club. He, along with Trey Robinson, both in the 900-point range with plenty of time to do it. And Sam has a season high of 17 points, so he's got less than 50 to go, and he's still counting.
Well, and it's not too hard to imagine the way he's playing right now that he's probably only a couple games away from getting to that 1,000-point mark. Of course, both guys, first team All-Horizon League in the preseason, and Vincent, again, just has that look about him right now, and that look should terrify everybody on Northern Kentucky's schedule the rest of the season.
They would join a group of 30 members of that 1,000-point club. 8 of them has happened during the Division I era as well. They would make 9 and 10. How about Blackwell with a Euro step, and then he's hammered underneath the basket by L.J. Wells, and will have to earn the bucket at the free throw line with 2 charity stripe launches. Let's see if we get the replay here in transition. Here's Blackwell. And Wells just hammers him from behind. And that's a good old-fashioned hard foul there. You got to go to the free throw line. Can't just let somebody get a free open look like that.
Oh, 100%. Especially with that Euro step, sometimes that's a hard one not to just plow somebody because you're not expecting that bonus step, and there was no way for Wells to kind of be able to stop his momentum. No choice but to park him on the ground and make him go to the free throw line.
That's 3 fouls for L.J. Wells, so he will take a seat in favor of Hubie Prevorius. But Wells with a season-high 10 points here tonight. That doubles his previous mark when he had 5 in the season opener at Purdue. Of course, Northern Kentucky starting the season at 0-4, but 3 of those opponents from high major conferences, 2 on the road, and a very good mid-major program in Nichols, who quite frankly came in here and punched the Norse in the mouth, and Northern Kentucky cannot overcome that staggering blow.
I know I was talking to some of the guys over at UC because I happened to be over there on campus right before they played Nichols, and they had a little easier time getting the benefit of playing them on the second day after Northern Kentucky played them, but they really believed that team could give them everything they wanted. Really impressed with that young, talented team. So this has been a rough schedule to start the season, but that's the way it works out sometimes when you're scheduling these high major teams. A lot of times you don't necessarily have a choice about when you get to play them. You just kind of have to play them when you can. So it'll benefit Northern Kentucky in the long run. I think we're seeing some of that today. But if you had your way, you would kind of space those out through your non-conference.
And for the hand-wringers in the crowd who are upset about an 0-4 start, this won't be remembered in February when you're trying to get to those 3 days in March.
If you cut down the nets in Indianapolis in March, none of it matters. And the bottom line is that is the mantra of this program. And they're not the only program here that has kind of taken that mantra and run with it. We just saw the baseball program here do the same thing and win the Horizon League back in the spring.
Izzy Payton told me to my face, I stole that 3 days in March stuff from Coach Horn because it is the truth. It is what we have to do. As far as baseball goes, be it either a 1 or a 2 seed, you only got to play 3 days. And here's Goresger from coast to coast, laying it up and in.
Kentucky State had played better defensively in the second half, but Goresger must have been invisible out there because nobody stopped the ball, and I think he was even a little surprised he got to the rim that easily.
Here is Henderson with it now, asking for a screen from Brewer. Blackwell through a double team, and the third guy knocks it away. Here's Vincent behind the back. Now he'll find Robinson, who trails the break. Northern Kentucky looks like they want to use a little bit of clock. Here's Rapolis, who rattles it in with a left-hand hook. It feels like it's coming off the heel of his hand, but somehow or another, the big fella was able to put it in.
Yeah, I think they'd probably like to see him get that a little more up on the fingertips than off the heel, but he's got a wide variety of hook shots, which when you're that big and you can get that hook shot up and have some confidence in it, that's basically an unblockable shot.
Rapolis' country mates. Hubie Prevorius takes a spill, and it's the result of a Kentucky State foul. No, they did. They got Hubie on that one. So that's the first foul called against Prevorius. So he commits a foul and gets knocked to his backside. And stepping out of bounds on the inbound pass is LeVar Miller.
Those are unforced errors, as we say in the tennis business. That's just a mistake that you weren't forced into by the defense. Just on an inbounds pass, you have to know where you're at on the floor, and just a bad turnover.
The dimensions of the floor have been the same for a long, long time.
And they're the same everywhere.
They're the same in every gym you go to, unless it's the community gym. Here is Etijere, no good, but he is fouled. And they'll tag that on Gregory Melvin. So that'll put Kian Etijere at the line. And Etijere has put together a pretty solid start to the season so far. It really hasn't been talked about a whole lot. But he's a guy that Darren Horn was looking to take that next step. And he, through 4 games plus, seems to have been able to do that.
We've seen him putting in the extra work in practice, too. And this is one of the areas where he is putting in the extra work at the free throw line, trying to get to that 70-75% range. When you're a big guy, if you can knock down your free throws, that's a huge plus.
He improved tremendously to be a 50% free throw shooter last year. He was in the 30s for about the first half of the season, and he's done even better than that this year. So, and that's nothing but getting in the gym and grinding, and Kean has put the work in, that's for sure. And there is a 3-point basket by one of their post players, Ojian Ayu, 6'9", and he steps out for long range. Here's a Etijere, kind of a push shot from the nail, no good. And the rebound is by Kentucky State.
That's that shot that they want to see them get it up on the rim to have a chance for an offensive rebound.
And it's Ayo again, this time from the elbow. Back-to-back buckets for the big fella.
Been impressed. He's been solid, too, especially with Miller getting in some foul trouble. Ayo's had to kind of step up his offensive game, and he's looked very confident doing so.
Down low is Etijere. It's knocked away. It'll stay with the Norse with 17 on the timer. Kian Etijere, 6'9", out of Kingsdale, North Carolina, transferred in last year from Marquette. Originally committed to the staff at Texas, who had moved to Marquette, that Shaka Smart's group. But Darren Horn knew about him through his relationship with the Shaka Smart coaching staff, that he was a part of it one time before coming to Northern Kentucky. Here is Pettis for 3, and he plays the nylon song.
Northern Kentucky with 9 3-pointers made on the day, getting good looks from the outside, making that extra pass to find the open shots.
That's the 3rd Northern Kentucky player with double digits, joining L.J. Wells and Sam Vincent. And that will take us to our under-12 media break. Northern Kentucky continues to lead Kentucky State, thanks to shots like this one out of the corner from Randall Pettis here on ESPN+. Welcome back, fans. Brady Labor along with Matt Sexton, and let's take a look at our key player update. Sam Vincent going up against LeVar Miller, and right now both of them have done well, but Sam Vincent has done extremely well. Miller has been held to 15 points.
Oh, Vincent, again, just building on what he did the other night against Cincinnati, playing with confidence. And what doesn't show up there is he's also been excellent on the defensive end, getting his hands on passes, all the stuff he normally does. Miller was really hurt by picking up that 3rd foul in the first half. That was right at the moment, Brady, that he was really starting to heat up. And then he immediately gets a 3rd foul and has to go to the bench, and really just hasn't been as aggressive offensively in the second half.
Here's Dilling getting it across the floor as Vincent, you saw, was taking a rest. And it looked like a foul was called against Keon Henderson. Looks like some parachutes coming out of the crowd there. Is that our Mike's Car Wash there? A little bit tardy?
Could be, could be.
Oh, They saw my car, they knew they just hand one to me, as opposed to making me catch it out of the ceiling. It used to be another sponsor that they dropped that out of the sky. I believe it was Skyline Chili. All proud sponsors of Northern Kentucky University.
Thank you to all
athletics.
All their friends at
We'll
Central
start.
Bank.
Yeah, we'll start shilling for that stuff.
Yeah, Jolly Plumbing.
December. Yeah, Brady Jolly, a Campbell County alum. Of course, his dad started the company. Barry Jolly. Brady played briefly for the Norse back in the Dave Beazold era. There is Robinson down low, no good. Brady Jolly was on the bench when I shot video of at Bellarmine. Northern Kentucky beat, was it Kentucky Wesleyan? Where Tony Rack with the last second shot to win the game, and Brady Jolly is in the celebration where it looked like he almost got trucked when they went to tackle Tony Rack at the end. We got it all on video. It was on the NKU Sports Show back in the day.
Good times.
Here is Dilling from way downtown, and he buries it in the bottom of the sack. That's when the NKU Sports Show was a half hour long, not just a 2-minute break. Your boy was out hustling at that time.
He still is. He's everywhere, man.
That was more for class credit back then. Now it's about survival. As my guy Ron Arnsberger would say, this is how I feed my family.
Well, I am right there alongside you, man. That's
right.
why I'm here filling in for the future Hall of Famer.
Appreciate that. Of course, little scheduling conflict there. Drew McDonald, David Wassler both could not be here. And Rich Hoyt doing the same thing, coaching just like those guys are doing. And then, of course, guys like you and me don't have anywhere else to be.
Always happy to be here, though. Always
That's
great to watch.
Appreciate you. I'm glad you rang the bell. You were there to answer.
Hey, you know what? That's best of ability is availability, I believe.
Right. That's my only availability is they can't get rid of me. 15 seasons now, Matt, after being part of this great student production crew back in my time here that dated back to Regions Hall.
It's only my 7th on women's basketball, 8th overall, so got a long way to go to catch up.
Of course, Bill, Farrow, Wes Akers, they go back even further when I think they were students as part of this student production.
I mean,
1995, that was back in the glory days. That was when the men's team was going to national championship games. Head coach Ken Shields and that whole crew. Here is a Tigre. I don't know how old you guys feel, but I know I look older. That's all that matters, right? High mileage is what I'll say. People don't believe my real age. There's no reason for me to lie about it. As Brewer, I'll just try to withhold it if possible as Morgan Brewer returns.
What's life if you're not living it, you know?
That's right. Vincent will trigger it in. Here is Pettis. He'll get it back to Vincent. Jeremiah Israel making his first appearance of the season. There's a lob and a Tigre on the second effort. He looked like he was boxed out of his own alley-oop attempt, but stuck with it and put it in.
I'm impressed he caught that. That was a tough catch. And then to have the wherewithal to come down and go back up immediately strong, thinking there might be some contact. That was a great finish.
But good to see Israel on the floor for the first time. He's battled illness. He rolled his ankle coming back from an illness. So good to see him in Game 5 getting on the floor. He gave the Norse valuable minutes early in the season when Randall Pettis was slow to take form for Northern Kentucky last year. And a local guy nonetheless out of Erlanger Lloyd. Yeah, Lloyd Memorial, the Jugs.
He's another guy that can provide them with key minutes throughout the season, some depth at the guard position. And, you know, this is a good day to kind of get a look at someone like him, get him in some minutes, kind of work him back in the rotation a little bit. And, again, this is all part of, the Norse building toward conference play, which is just around the corner.
It's a fact-finding mission, I think,
yes.
As far as in front of a live audience. Here is Vincent with it. He'll get a screen from a Tigre. The big fella rolls. Now it's Israel. He'll take the shot. No good. Pavorius gets the rebound. And now Northern Kentucky can reset. a Tigeray. Now it's Israel again. He thought about driving baseline, but was cut off. 6 on the timer, so a Tigeray with that little one-hand push shot, no good, and it's rebounded by Kentucky State.
It's good to see him take that shot. That was something the coaching staff wanted him, when he had the opportunity, when he's open, to take that shot from the free throw line.
Knocked away by Pettis into the hands of Vincent, and in transition, a foul committed by the Thoroughbreds.
Some frustration. I thought there was a foul at this end, didn't get called, and then a foul in transition. That's 7 on Kentucky State, so Northern Kentucky will shoot the rest of the way.
The Major Moves pillar of the HL experience highlights our commitment to innovation and a forward-thinking approach to challenges while addressing emerging trends in all aspects of the college sports environment. The Horizon League and its partners have spent the last couple of years investing in education opportunities and concepts around NIL to best support our athletes. Millions of minutes of Horizon League action was viewed across all the ESPN platforms last year. We appreciate your support of all our athletes and programs. To learn more about the major moves across the HL, visit horizonleague.com. Boy, that was a mouthful.
That is a mouthful for sure. We missed the dump down to a Tigeray, who went up and threw it down on the one end, and then they're going to call a loose ball foul at the other end on Randall Pettis.
So I can say now, with good standing, it's a stick-back stufferino. There's a loose ball foul called right in front of our position. And it's going to be against Kentucky State, and that's Nicholas Cross. And that will send Northern Kentucky to the free throw line for a 1-on-1 bonus opportunity as Cross, a transfer from Lees-McRae University after spending a year at Florida Gateway Community College, close to his home in Florida, as Wells will go to the free throw line. Wells, a junior from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Short arms the first attempt. Here's Livingston with it. We'll get it back from Cross. Here's Melvin, short, and another loose ball foul, this time on the rebound. And that is going to be against Melvin. And that'll take us to our media break at the 8-minute mark. Northern Kentucky, thanks to plays like that, lead Kentucky State big here on this Saturday matinee affair. University basketball here on ESPN Plus is brought to you by Central Bank, along with Jolly Plumbing, where a flush beats a full house. Fans, don't forget old rivals will be renewed when Northern Kentucky and Bellarmine meet here. Truist Arena 1 week from today. It's part of a doubleheader that'll also feature the Norse women's basketball team that takes place against Eastern Kentucky. The fun starts at 3:30 p.m. right here at Truist Arena. That's going to be an exciting one there as far as that men's game, where especially a guy like me who got his start doing this as a part of the GLVC.
Honestly, I think that is a fantastic doubleheader all the way around. I think that Eastern Kentucky, Northern Kentucky women's game to start things off at 3:30 is going to be a really good one. Jeff Hands has that team playing better and better. They lost a heartbreaker on the road in their last outing game. They probably should have won. And then, like you said, Bellarmine, of course, they're finishing their full transition to Division I. They're a team that every time people look at the Horizon League and say, well, they still have 11 members, why don't they have a 12? Bellarmine is almost always the first name brought up. It would be really cool if that was a conference game again, but that should be a lot of fun coming up next Saturday.
And it's Israel with a long three-pointer for the Norse. Speaking of GLVC rivalries renewed, and Jeff Hands, the women's team are in Evansville to take on USI Southern Indiana, as Pettis with a steal and the bucket. And, of course, Rick Stein still the head coach down there for the Screaming Eagles.
They're off to a good start.
And Miranda Gatling is still his associate head coach. Great point guard back in the day.
They're 4-1 on the season. Their only losses to Louisville. That'll be a tough one today. I know Jeff Hands thought that would be a battle. If they could get that win today, that'd be a really good win on the road.
Yeah, Miranda Gatling was the point guard on that 97 national championship team for USI. Rick Stein was the assistant coach. Of course, Leanne Freeland was the national player of the year for the Screaming Eagles, and Don't forget Chancellor Dugan was the head coach back then. That was at a period when USI had it going both in men's and women's basketball. Bruce Pearl was their head coach, and Superman Stan also was a national champion. Stan Gerard, the current head coach.
Those names bring back memories. The late 90s.
Yeah, the mid to late, well, the 1990s in Division II was all about the GLVC between Kentucky Wesleyan, Southern Indiana, and Northern Kentucky. Those three schools all made it to the Elite Eight in all 10 of the years of the decade.
And we just saw LeVar Miller Jr. come back into the game. And Brady, it's worth noting, he's only taken one shot here in the second half after having such a good first half, as that one rattles in by Blackwell. I mentioned at the beginning of the half they rotated Sam Benson over on him, so I don't know if that has something to do with he's not out there now, but clearly Miller just not getting the opportunities or taking the opportunity to shoot here in half number 2.
Here's Dilling, has it knocked away by Miller, and now it's a race to the bucket, and he will two-hand slam it. So Miller showing his defensive ability there as the deficit for the Thoroughbreds is cut into by 2 points. Here's Pettis. Over to Israel. He'll get it back. Now they'll find Rapolis. It'll work against the much smaller Brewer. Misses, and again, I feel like that ball's coming off the heel of his hand.
Yeah, and again, he caught it too far outside of the paint. That's a ball they want to see him catch about 3 or 4 feet closer to the basket. That becomes a much easier shot then.
Here's a step back three, no good by Miller, and it will go out of bounds, and it's off of Northern Kentucky, so it'll stay downtown here with the Thoroughbreds as Dan Goresger will check back into the game for Northern Kentucky, and Josh Dilling will go out. Dilling, a 1,000-point scorer in his career at 3 different stops.
It's an interesting time of the game for Northern Kentucky. You see some different guys, some different looks for players out here. This is an opportunity for some of these guys to maybe earn a little more playing time when they head down to Charleston later this week.
Melvin misses, but he is fouled by Rapolis. So Rapolis commits the foul, and that's his 4th after scoring a season-high 6 points and getting what I feel like is the most number of minutes he's played so far this year as well. We'll have to double-check that. We'll have to go back to the fact checkers. He had 12 minutes against Purdue in his debut, and he was just under 12 at the last media break. So I think he's broken that threshold.
Yep, he's at 14. So
Caesar Chilumbo checks in, and Rapolis will go out. As Melvin knocks down the free throws. And Northern Kentucky continues to lead. The advantage is now 28. Here's Goresger with it into Robinson. Knocked away from behind, but Robinson regathers. The kick out to Goresger. Now it's Israel. 8 on the timer for Pettis. He'll shoot for 3. He's short, and Robinson gets the rebound. Northern Kentucky gets another opportunity. Goresger could not handle it. He had his feet planted to the ground trying to make his move, but Northern Kentucky still comes away with it. And now it's Pettis. Curls it over the front of the rim, and he'll go to the free throw line.
A little bit of a scramble situation there, and Kentucky State didn't really do a good enough job getting back on defense after the turnover near half court, and Pettis kind of recognized he had a little bit of space to work with, takes it strong to the basket, gets the bucket, and have a chance for a three-point play.
Bryce Derbyshire will check in for the first time. And to make sure I said his name and not his brother, who also is a college basketball player down at Kentucky. His father, Greg, is sitting close by to us right now. That's an 81-50 Northern Kentucky advantage. Of course, Bryce out of Sycamore High School. Played for the Aviators. Second year in the program with Northern Kentucky. Here's Ayo through traffic. He's fouled. And will go to the free throw line. It's Pettis who is the guilty party. Randall Pettis, that's his second foul. And that is 9 on Northern Kentucky. So both teams will be shooting the double bonus for the remainder of the day. And AU makes the first one.
I mentioned Sycamore. I feel like that program has really taken a step forward in the past few years. Their basketball program has really gotten stronger year by year.
Of course, Tim Austin, the head coach over there.
So much good basketball in the area, in the greater Cincinnati area. A lot of good high school football as well. A couple of local teams with big wins last night.
Derbyshire is blocked at the rim, and it's out of bounds to Kentucky State. Yeah, over here in Kentucky, I think the biggest win was accomplished by the Covington Catholic Colonels as they knock out the 4-time defending state champion Boyle County Rebels on their own field.
That's a huge win.
Of course, the big matchup next week in the state Final Four is in 5A, as that's out of bounds and it's the much anticipated rematch between the Cooper Jaguars, who will host against the Highlands Bluebirds.
That'd definitely be one, if you didn't have anything to do on Friday, be worth driving out there to attend that one.
Of course, regional championships over Ohio as well. Moeller got the win over St. X. Anderson in a relatively low-scoring game beat LaSalle. And how about the Taft Senators? Won the first regional championship for a Cincinnati public school team since 1992.
Wow. Congratulations to Taft. It's been great to watch them get better almost week in and week out. And I don't think really anybody was expecting this run outside of the guys in that locker room, but they beat Archbishop Alter last night, who's certainly was on a run of their own.
Yeah, Tyler Williams, I covered him when he was a quarterback at Colerain, and now he's the head coach at Taft. And, you know, interesting to see him mature as a coach. Of course, his dad's still on the staff at St. Xavier. That's where Tyler got his start, but he didn't want to be satisfied with that. Taft took a chance on him as a young head coach, and it has definitely paid off. They've always had the dudes, but it was always figuring out a way to have that talent win games deep into November. Northern Kentucky with a win deep into this one here. Coming up here, they lead it 81-53 over Kentucky State. Welcome back, fans. Brady Labor along with Matt Sexton. You are looking at Sam Vincent, and he is the Grown Family McDonald's player of the game.
Well, he did what he needed to do. A pretty light night of work. They're getting the alley-oop finish. 17 points, 4 steals, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. Only 23 minutes tonight, but again, just have to love the way he looks out there. Just an aggression on the offensive end that is going to make him a real problem going forward for everybody that's got to try to defend him. A worthy player of the game for sure.
And he was a difference maker on the defensive end by kind of locking down LeVar Miller in the second half. Here's Livingston, no good. It's rebounded by Blackwell, no good. And Kentucky State still with it. Miller wanted a foul there against Israel, didn't get it. And now here comes Northern Kentucky.
Brady, I will say I really like the aggression that this Kentucky State team plays with. They're probably out-talented today. That's why they're going to come up on the wrong end of the scoreboard. But make no mistake, this team's going to win a lot of games at the Division II level. And I'm sure Justin Ray, our good friend, has been watching this one or will watch this one a little later, and he knows it's going to be a tough one when they head down to Frankfort coming up this week.
He narrowly escaped with a win against Miami Hamilton a couple of nights ago. And he's got a young team, does Justin Ray. And, you know, whenever Northern Kentucky's not playing, I'd suggest to head on over to the Connor Convocation Center for both men's and women's, you know, just, I don't know, 10 minutes away from where we sit right now in Crestview Hills. But they do a really good job over there, small college basketball. They're Division II now. So, again, they have common opponents with NKU at times when NKU is playing in these exempt games, as they're called. Each Division I team gets 2 exempt games in the regular season that counts as exhibitions for their opponents. And especially for a mid-major, it's a necessary evil because of how difficult it is for a mid-major to schedule home games. As Wes Miller could have been more complimentary in his press conference to say, we're never doing this again.
Yeah,
and there's no reason why they should because of the parameters of how the NCAA tournament teams are selected.
Well, and Brady, I think we talked to one of the assistants last year during the media day, and he kind of laid it all out there. Basically, the theory behind it is if you're a high major team and you're going to play somebody who's in a quad 4 team, which is what Northern Kentucky typically is, you're not going to play that team on the road. You're going to play that team at home in a bye game. So it's just tough for Northern Kentucky to get even other quad 4 teams to come in and play on the road. It's very challenging in the current environment. You do the best you can to try to get a couple of really good home games. But, you know, Darren Horn has always been about we'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere, not afraid to get on a plane. And so a lot of their best games are going to be on the road, as they have been this year with the exception of UC.
Yeah, they played at Purdue and at Florida State to start the season. And then had the opportunity, long awaited, to get a return game from Cincinnati here at home. But Northern Kentucky going to end up with its first win of the season. They'll improve to 1-4, but it won't get any easier. They'll have to go on the road and play a fellow mid-major. And that was a relationship schedule, right? Chris Mack, Darren Horn know each other. And that's how you were able to get that done, as you see the replay there, the foul called against Israel. He's getting plenty of run in this game.
And that's how a lot of these home and homes will probably be set up when you play decent Division I mid-major teams, is you hope you have that relationship with their staff, or maybe somebody that used to be on your staff goes somewhere and you can get them to go in. But first they're going to head to Charleston coming up on Wednesday. It certainly won't be easy.
Here's Goresger. He tried to get it to Chilumbo, who got it off the deflection, and the stufferino for L.J. Wells.
I think one thing Northern Kentucky's done really well today is passing. They have moved the ball side to side. They've made good entry passes into the post, and it's made for a lot of easy looks at the basket.
12 points for Wells. And now a backcourt violation as Livingston found himself standing and straddling the timeline, and that is just inexcusable right there. As we take a look at Mitchell Minor coming into the game for Northern Kentucky, a walk-on and the son of NKU Hall of Famer Shannon Minor, who's sitting just down the aisle from us.
Max Hyman into the game as well, sophomore from Southlake, Texas, getting his first appearance in a Northern Kentucky uniform.
Part of the program at Tarleton State last year, which is head coached by Bill Gillespie, former Kentucky head coach, also head coach at Texas Tech and Texas A&M. Here is Pettis with it now. He'll pull up. No good. It's Derbyshire with the rebound, and Northern Kentucky will get another crack at it. See if one of the walk-ons can get a shot off. Here's Minor. Minor with it now, and he travels.
Well, he got on the stat sheet, but probably not what he was hoping for.
And now a timeout called by Kentucky State with 1:05 left to go in this one, as Dr. Jamal Johnson will exercise the floating timeout, which takes us to one last break. Northern Kentucky on the cusp of its first win, leading at 83-57 here on ESPN+. Fans, if you'd like more information about today's contest, be sure to log on to nkunorse.com. You can also become a fan of Northern Kentucky University Athletics on Facebook and follow the Norse on Twitter at NKU Norse and on Instagram as well. NKU Norse on the rise. 1 minute left in this one. Northern Kentucky with an 83-57 lead over Division II Kentucky State. There's Cordell Livingston, no good, and a loose ball foul called underneath the basket, and that's against Northern Kentucky's Caesar Chilumbo. And that should send Tyson Brooks to the free throw line. Brooks started the game against Simmons their last time out in place of Henderson, as they went big with that lineup. Of course, Simmons, coached by former University of Louisville great Jerry Eves. He was, of course, the point guard on that 1980 national championship team for head coach Denny Crum. Missed the free throws there, and we are down to the final 40 seconds of this one. Here's Hyman with it. He'll drive baseline, run out of room, and find Chalumbo. No good again. A big fella like that needs to dunk, man. I can't even dunk off a step ladder when I see that. There's some professional jealousy and anger all at the same time.
Well, and you get
man.
One of the guys that doesn't get the play gives you a great assist.
Oh, and there's a steal, but a foul. A good foul called. And that's Livingston. But am I wrong or what?
No, I agree.
Okay.
And the thing is, we heard it at practice, too. They want these guys to be more forceful going up around the basket because, yeah, I mean, it's a higher percentage shot, but also you're bringing in shot blockers and everything else when you go up soft. And when you get to Horizon League play, you've got to be strong in the paint.
It's the same idea that athletes want to be rappers and rappers want to be athletes. I mean, come on, man. You're a big fella. Tear that thing down, man.
I will never know what that feels like, so we'll have to live vicariously through NKU's big men.
Or not when they miss. Then they're more like us. Because I can miss a one-footer pretty easily. Probably not as easy as that when you're, looking down at the rim, but that's okay, man. I'll calm down. We're still having fun over here. And at the buzzer, will it count? It does. Kentucky Wesleyan will get the two-pointer at the end. And the Norse still come away with an 85.